Hello friends, Baltmatrix here, and today we are taking a look at Earthrise Double Dealer. I picked this figure up over at the Hasbro Pulse. The paint on the figure is quite good, and the molding is very true to his original Generation 1 figure, who I do own, but it's not currently with me. Head sculpt is excellent. The powder blue face on the black head with the red eyes really pop. Size-wise, the figure scales pretty perfectly to Earthrise Optimus Prime and Siege Megatron. Don't have Earthrise Megatron, and I'm not buying the general release. I'm going to get the G2 version that was just leaked today. The figure is also a head size shorter than Ultra Magnus. The figure also comes with the accessories shown here. We have rocket launchers, miniguns, a giant missile that splits apart into two different bits, and then whatever this is supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to be a light. I'm assuming it's like one of those sound attack things. Or sonic weapon. Maybe it's a sonic weapon. The missile combines very easily. Simply slide the barrel of the gun into the front end of the missile, and you have an ICBM. There is one more accessory that is stored on the back in robot mode, and that is this large accessory that forms the tail wing in bird mode, and then the, well, little holster and connector port for other base modes in the missile vehicle mode. Posability for the figure. Head can look down that much and can look up that much and is on a ball joint, though it's very tight, and posability is kind of limited there. Shoulders have 360-degree swivels and then hinges for in and out. There's a swivel at the upper arm, double bend at the elbow for the transformation. Fists are on swivels. There is torso swivel, but you have to be careful because the bird feathers in robot mode do just kind of sit flat back on the back. You can fold them up like that, though, so you can get the swivel. There is a ratchet for forward and back movement, and then a hinge for in and out, though it feels like it should be a ratchet. There is a swivel just above the knee, and then a knee that almost goes 90 degrees. Finally, for foot articulation, feet can do the Siege tilt. There is forward and back, but it's more at the just behind the toes, and this is for the transformation. There are quite a few points of connectivity for this figure. On the top are one on each shoulder, one on each side of the head, two on the back, then one on each forearm, obviously the fists, then one on each side of the lower leg, and one on each bottom of the foot. I really enjoy this robot mode. I think it is a wonderful rendition of the original G1 figure. I do have a few problems with it, though, and let's go ahead and talk about that. And I don't know how fixable these are. So my figure, really wobbly, like really wobbly, and the knees can't hold itself up, really. The arms also very loose, like not so loose that it can't hold itself up, but all the joints in the arm are pretty loose. Now, you might be wondering, well, Bolt, you always complain about this kind of stuff. Well, yes, I do, because I expect figures to be able to, hold their weapon without any real problem. Now, the only thing actually holding the weapon here isn't friction. It's actually just the fact that I'm not angling it well enough so it falls down. I mean, these pins, they're far too loose for my taste. Just far too loose. If you have a figure that doesn't have these issues, fantastic. You won the quality control lottery. Now, for those of you that know about the Generation 1 figure, he was a Power Master, meaning he had two little figures that could transform into engines and then merge with him to form different modes. So what they would do is his default mode was the missile truck. An Autobot would jump onto him, and he would turn into the robot mode you see here. And then a Decepticon would jump onto him, and he would transform into a bird. That was his robot mode for the Decepticon. Now, in the Japanese series Master Force, that was one character that could switch between the Autobot and the Decepticon. This figure has some interesting little gimmicks. First off, if you open up the chest and reach into his belly, you can pull off this little engine, and you could take any tape and literally just peg it into his chest and flip it up. So I actually like that, but it would be really cool if this area right here was clear or open so you could see if he's got an Autobot or a Decepticon pegged into his chest. Now, having a little tape deck in here is nice and all, but it would really have been beneficial if they had come up with an easy way to push the little tape deck figures out, because if you don't have any nails or you have very small hands, you're not getting this thing out of there. Now, to switch this guy from Autobot to Decepticon, that's very easy. Come to the top of the shoulders, grab these panels, which are incredibly tight, and simply flip them down over each shoulder. Aha! He is now a Decepticon! And we're going to get into the transformation next, so we have to flip them back, because if they are flipped down, as in the Decepticon symbols are exposed in this mode, and you go to transform it, things don't line up quite right. Okay, transformation. Vehicle mode. We're going to start with the missile truck. To start off with, come to the fists, fold them up into the forearms. Fists have been rotated in, turn the arms around, and then flip the fists, or I should say the forearms, up and have this little peg on the back of the shoulders peg into that little thing right there. And believe it or not, that's harder to do than you might think, because just getting things lined up sometimes is kind of tricky. Specifically because I'm going blind! I'm old and I'm blind! Next up, take the legs, turn them so that the hollow parts are pointing to the front of the vehicle, or robot mode. Flip the feet sections down, or the heels down, grab the legs and rotate them up, and get them just situated there, and they will actually peg into these slots that are on the side of the legs. And the slot peg is right there. This, again, is actually harder than you might think. Just getting it lined up and situated, because there is a double joint in those knees, is harder than it should be. Now with the legs folded up, take the chest, flip it open, turn it 180 degrees, fold it down, and it will peg into place in these little peg holes in the back of the front of the vehicle mode. Then take the arms, grab the shoulders, rotate them in, and you will unpeg the, or you will actually pull the rear tires with you. So you can grab it with your thumb, flip it around, and unpeg anything you pegged again. Flip those toes, or flip those feathers, fold the section up like that. This is where we attach the missile to the figure. Oop, might help if I actually put the missile in correctly. And peg that in place. And we're just about done. Take the tail feather section, peg it into the two pegs that are beside the head, and get that pegged in. Fold that rear section up, plug it back in, because this thing has a tendency to unpeg itself. Fold these up, and these pilers, or I guess stabilizers, look like they're supposed to peg into the sections that are on the shoulders. They don't. And we're done, and we can add the rest of the missiles and guns. This missile truck mode is exactly what I wanted from a double dealer. It works really well. Only real aesthetic issue are, good grief, these arms are just gigantic chunks on the back. But it actually works, and it looks pretty darn good. I like it. Rolls with no issue. To turn it into its missile base mode, or launching mode, fold down the stabilizers, fold down the ramp, and flip up the missile. That's it. That's all she wrote. It's got a very Spies Like Us feel to it, which I dig. That's also a really good movie. If you have a chance, go and watch it. It's 80s. It's like the perfect stupid 80s comedy. All right, let's get this figure into bird mode. So we can do the transformation from the missile truck or from robot mode. There are a couple of differences, obviously. To start off with, we're going to flip the chest bit up and then turn it around 180 degrees. Just leave it up for right now. Come to the legs, unpeg them, and then flip them back down like you're going to transform the figure into robot mode. But there is something we're going to do a little bit differently. So, turning the figure around and coming to the bottom of the missile truck mode, you see these little tabs here. These little tabs are actually going to get folded up into these slots that are just above the knees. We've got to push the knees all the way into the cavities there. But we can't continue the transformation because there's too much stuff in the way. So take the wheels, or the real wheels, fold them down, and then flip out the bird legs. And then take the arms, and there is this little slot, or this little peg right there. We have to take the arms, turn them around, and then get them lined up with that peg. Just work it so that the shoulder is parallel to the upper leg, and that the lower legs peg in like that. And then with the arms and bird feet done correctly, then we can bring the legs up and continue to push them into place, and then they will eventually peg into these slots here on the side. Eventually, with a little patience and a little elbow grease, you can get everything pegged in correctly. Next, come to the very front, just behind the, well, human storage area, and flip this little piece up. That's the piece on the outside of the leg, or top of the missile carrier, that has the peg hole for the siege bit. Flip the blue part down, and then close the little canopy section over top, and it will hook into place right here. Then we can flip the arms around, and they don't peg into anything, they just kind of rest there. Then come to the top of the vehicle, or the bottom of the missile truck mode, and fold out the wings. Flip open this panel, and flip out the bird head. And I'll talk more about the bird head when we transform it back. And then push the head past this little section, which really feels like it should flip down, but it doesn't. Close the panel up. Now I did screw something up. So fold that head in. Fold the head in. Push this gray piece back. And then you can fold the arms in, because there's actually slots in the struts here for the arms. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to close it up correctly. Next is, you see these slots here, right there and right there? Those have these pegs that slot into place. Now there's this little siege impact point, and originally I thought that this would fold down and peg into it, but it does not, unfortunately. I would have really liked there to have been little, like, pegs that you could fold the struts down and peg into. And the reason I say that is because this tail wing has a tendency to just come off way too easily. Now for the missile, we simply attach it to the bottom, like so. Or you could be silly and attach it forward, like this, and you have a giant bird cloaca, but it's really supposed to go like that, though it just kind of rests there. And then you can attach the gun and the launch and the missile launchers and the sonic weapon anywhere you could find ports. Specifically, there are 2 ports here just under the bird head. There are 2 ports to the side of the bird head. There's a port behind the head, and there's a port on the tail wing. And then there's a port here under the wing and here under the other wing. And that's it. Those are the only ports. So, yeah. The bird mode, it's fine. It's fine. It literally just looks like a truck turned upside down with a bird hanging off of it, and that's fine. I like the powder blue head, and the red beak, or the red underbeak that opens up really wide, and if you notice that when you opened it up, the head moved, so the head slides in and out and down, so you're really supposed to slide that out and down. Yeah, bird mode's fine. It's fine. There's really nothing wrong with it. It's just silly and feels more like a GoBot than anything else. One funny thing you can do in the bird mode is you can flip up the Decepticon symbols like this, though it looks absolutely ridiculous with them being upside down, but you could do it. And if you're wondering, yes, you can totally flip them down to be Decepticon symbols in the missile truck mode as well. Now, let's go ahead and get this bird back into robot mode. Now, I do have to thank my Twitter followers, simply because The directions weren't clear on how to do this transformation correctly, so opening up the back and then moving the arms to the side, you push the bird head down and fold it up, turn it to the side, and then flip it down. Now, what I was doing is flipping it so it was like this and just leaving it there. That's wrong, because if you do this, then you can't close this panel up. And if you follow me on Twitter, I asked, why isn't this panel closing up? So what you have to do is make sure that the head is pushed all the way down and perfectly straight when you fold it up. Otherwise, that panel's not going to close correctly, and the wings are not going to fold up correctly. So we'll fold up the first set of wings like that, and then fold up the second set of wings, and I like the fact that the wings are ratcheted like that, and then fold this missile component over like that. Then we can unpeg the forearms, fold up the bird feet, and fold everything out, and then we can only fold them back that much because we have to flip up the chest, peg it into place, unpeg the legs, and fold them down, and retransform the legs correctly. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to push the shoulders back into place. And then flip out the fists. I'm really happy with Double Dealer in the looks department and in the transformations. Overall, I really like the figure. I just wish it didn't have the QC issues or the looseness issues that I do. Again, if you have a figure or if you have a Double Dealer that does not have any of these issues, fantastic, that's wonderful. But I do, and that's the only way I can review it, is saying that, look, my figure has issues. If yours doesn't, again, good job, you won the lottery. Overall, I like the figure, and it's a fantastic reimagining of the classic Generation 1 figure, who, let's face it, was kind of stupid to begin with. Again, I picked this figure up over at the Hasbro Pulse. It is currently available for pre-order at any other online retailer. Head down to the link in the description. I've got links to Big Bad Toy Store and the Hasbro Pulse down there for you. Also, while you're down there, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Your monthly financial contribution is going to help me keep the lights on. Thank you so much for watching this video review. Thank you for following me on Patreon. I have been Baltmatrix, and I'll catch y'all next time. Do-do-do-do-do. Oh, his arm and elbows do the doot-de-doo. I don't like the doot-de-doo being on joints. Doot-de-doo should only be done on wheels. Look at me, I got the biggest missile around. Decepticon Double Dealer. Missile size. Inferior.